Today I'll be working on a 2013 Mazda 3. The truth. Gonna be replacing my rear shocks. This is the part number right here with the Monroe brand. It's mostly going to be putting on new top sleeves. Going to be installing some lowering springs. This is the part number. Now in the box, there's two different sizes of springs. Get the very large ones right here. And we got the smaller ones right inside here. With this current tire setup, I've got about 3 inches almost of clearance between the fender and the tire itself. We'll see what the difference is afterwards. You're gonna wanna go ahead and put a wheel chock on the front tires, just so it doesn't go anywhere, and safely jack up the rear end. Once you're safely on jack stands, go ahead and remove your tires. Once your wheel's out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and loosen up both of these bolts right here. They are a 12mm. Once you've got those two loose, we're gonna come down, and on the back side, see if I can point to it, right here, there's a 17mm bolt we're gonna be taking out next. Now you're gonna wanna use a jack, just kind of support the bottom of the strut. What I'm using is a socket to kind of take up the space and to kind of cup around the bottom of the strut, because when I had it just on the jack itself, I couldn't get the bolt out. So if I use the socket, it gives me the clearance to get the bolt out, but it still gives support just to the strut. They'll strut a block of wood and it was hitting this brace right here, but the socket's just right. Next, you're going to remove these two top nuts all the way while holding onto this so it doesn't just fall straight out. After both those have been removed, gently bring it down. I like to tilt it towards me once you get past the fender of the car. Then you can bring it all the way out. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a nut underneath of here. And the only way I've noticed to get it off is you've got to hold this center shaft steady. So I got a pair of pliers on here to hold it while I go ahead and rotate this wrench to remove the nut. Once that nut is removed, you can just go ahead and slide this all the way off. Here's a really quick side-by-side with the old one and the new one. We will be reusing this little bracket up here, put it on the new one. So what I found to work the easiest to get this bump stop out of the bracket is use something sharp like a knife. Just kind of get it up in there, try and pry it out. It should start to come. You'll be able to see it and just pull it right off. It's gonna be almost the opposite for the new one. Just gonna kind of get it in there. Just gonna work it into place. And there you go. On your new shock, it's gonna have this clip. So you don't wanna press it just a bit and be able to work this clip out. It's kind of hard to show when I'm on camera. I'll see what I can do. Just like that, and it's off. Now this is a little bit difficult to do, but you're gonna need to get this little ring right here inside of here. It's gonna fit right inside this little lip between the top and this first lip. So the best way I found, just kind of go at an angle and just keep working it around. I wish I could show you, but it's kind of hard to hold the camera and do it at the same time. There it is, about halfway in there. You just got to keep working it around the edges. And there it is, all the way in there. Once you have your shock, boot, and bump guard all together, you're going to go ahead and put your nut right on the top. It's going to be almost the reverse of how you took it off, by using a set of pliers and a wrench on there to hold the shaft steady with the pliers, and then turn the nut with the wrench. So we're gonna put our jack underneath here and kind of relieve some of that pressure as we take the bolt out, and then slowly lower this and be able to remove this spring. All right, next we're gonna take out this bolt right here. It is a 17mm. And before we do that, because all the spring pressure pushing down, we're gonna put the jack underneath and kind of push up on it just to relieve the pressure. And then we'll slowly lower the jack down once we have the bolt out. Now I was able to get the bolt loose, but to get it all the way out, I actually had to come around to this side, put a screwdriver in that hole, and it's gonna tap it out with a hammer and push the bolt all the way through. But remember to put pressure on the bottom. That way it relieves the pressure at this joint right here between the frame and the arm. Next, I'm gonna slowly let down my jack, and the spring should push down and then come all the way out in just a minute. You'll see. Now for the amount of work I'm having to do on the sway bar removal, just to get these springs out, I'm gonna go ahead and put the Whiteline sway bar in the rear. This is the part number for it. I was wanting to do this in a separate video, but I'm going through this much trouble, I might as well do it all at once. Once again, you're gonna need to jack up this arm to relieve the pressure. It's gonna be on the sway bar right up here where my wrench is at. So what you'll be needing to use is a 14mm wrench along with a 5mm Allen to hold the bolt steady while you twist the nut off with the wrench. So we're going to be removing this nut off the sway bar right here to relieve the pressure so we can get this control arm all the way down. On the opposite side suspension, you're going to need to release this bolt right here for the sway bar, just so it doesn't add tension when you're working on the other side. I did have to finesse the link around a bit, and yes, I had to loosen up this end as well, but go ahead and drop it out of the way. Next, I'm going to release the jack pressure, and this should come down enough to take the spring out. Gonna maneuver it around, get it out, take that all the way out. Make sure these are still good. Check your bushings, make sure they're not cracked, leaking, anything like that. Check these ones down here too. Next, we're gonna have to take off these two bolts right here. There's another two on this side, holding the sway bar on. They're all 14mm. Here's my new Whiteline sway bar compared to the old one. You can definitely tell it's a lot thicker. And this end is very solid. Like, it's solid all the way through. Found some cheaper ones online, but they're usually hollow, so they don't hold up too well to twisting. Now before we remove the sway bar, should be able to push down and get this spring right out of there. Alright, here's our old spring compared to the new one we're going to be putting in the rear here. Obviously you can tell it's a little bit shorter over here, maybe about an inch or so, but the compression should be a lot more too. Don't forget to remove this off your old one and put it on the new one. It's like a little rubber boot for the top. Alright, once you got the spring back up in there, before I bolt it in, I'm actually going to do the other side of the car. I already took the wheel off, but since we need the sway bar off to do the rear suspension, I'm going to go ahead and do both sides at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and do the spring. Remember to relieve the pressure, take out the bolt, the spring should come out, change out the tops, put the new spring back in, we'll put the bolt in, and then once this is all together, I'll show you what it looks like. And there it is, with the bolt back in and the new spring in place as well. Now I'll show you what I did on the other side of the car. We're going to raise up the bottom of this arm with the jack. Be sure that the top of the spring stays within this little cradle up here. And we're going to bring this bolt hole right up to line up with this guy on the inside. So you may have to shift this around a little bit while you're jacking it up to get it to fit inside. If yours is like mine, where it's close, not quite on there, what you can do is you can grab it, kind of pull different directions. Just trying to get it lined up the best you can so you can stick your bolt back through. After I've torqued these down, I also like to make a mark just to check on them later, see if they've moved. If they have, they'll need to be re-tightened. If they haven't, you're good to go. After you got both springs in, next we're going to be reinstalling our sway bar. The part number for the bushings on the rear sway bar is this one right here. Now, most of these bushings, you're going to want to throw some grease on the inside before you put it on the sway bar. But with these ones from Whiteline, they say that it's a grease-free. Because of the inner coating on these things, you don't need to add grease. You just go ahead and put it right on the sway bar. Now when installing the sway bar, you want to make sure it's going to kind of dip down this way. See it better on that side. It goes down, then dips down, and then kind of kicks up. And don't forget to put the brackets on before you try and install it on the car. It's a lot easier to get them on the ground. And then when you bolt them in, it'll kind of pull the bracket the rest of the way. I just put these bolts in hand tight so far. All 4 of them. Let's see the other ones. There they are. Next, I'm going to be putting these end links onto the sway bar, and then I'll be fishing it up into here. Actually, they go this way. Now on these sway bars, it's got 2 different settings. You're gonna have this first one right here. That's gonna be your softer setting, and this one's gonna be your harder setting. So depending on how you want to set up your car, you need to set it up for a hard sway bar in the rear or a softer sway bar in the rear. I'm gonna go ahead and do hard and see how I like it, and then if I need to adjust it, I'll adjust it out to a softer setting. Alright, now we're gonna tighten up this nut right here and this one right up top. Then we're gonna need your Allen key in there, and then your wrench to turn the nut itself. After you get these tightened on both sides, don't forget to come back and tighten up the bolts for the brackets on both sides. Now that you got it all back together, you're gonna kind of come in at the same angle, stick the bottom end down. Now once the top clears the fender, go ahead and bring it up and onto the 2 bolts. You can go ahead and put the 2 nuts on these just to hold it in place for now. Next, you're going to go ahead and get underneath your shock again with your jack, and again, I like using a socket. But you're going to go ahead and lift this part up so the bolt meets up with the bolt hole, just right about here. And then you're going to start hand tightening it first to get it started, and then you can go ahead and get it out with a wrench. When you're tightening up the bolt that goes in this hole right here, be sure to start it by hand and then get it going with a wrench before you hit it with any kind of impact gun or anything, because they will strip easily. This one's from the passenger side of my car, so I'm gonna have to either go to a junkyard and find another one or go straight to Mazda and get another one. But you can see it's stripped off like the first half dozen threads right here. Now, if you had to rethread your holes like I did, you'll need a M12 by 1.25 tap, and I gotta run it through a couple times. Go focus. Come on. I had to run it through a couple times to make sure my threads were clear, and then I ended up getting a new bolt from Mazda, and this one doesn't have the washer on it, so I went to my hardware store and just got a lock washer set for it. But here is the Mazda part number if you need that same bolt. It is a little bit longer than the stock one, but as I've put it in on the passenger side so far, it fits just fine. Alright, once you get this bolt all the way in there, you're going to want to go ahead and torque it to 77 foot-pounds. Now you got your new shock all the way mounted up in there, go ahead and put your tire back on. Next, you're going to want to safely jack it up and pull your jack stands out. When your wheels are just barely touching, go ahead and tighten up all your lug bolts. Then you can safely remove the jack from the car. Finally, don't forget to remove your wheel chock as well. You may have to back up the car just a little bit, because mine is stuck right now, so I'll have to back it up an inch. And after you lower it, you can check the distance you have now. Looks like it's about just over an inch now on the rear. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section down below. But I hope this video helped.